eyes on the prize. The chasers were lined up and ready to go at the Lowe's Motor Speedway. Round 5 of the chase, trying to build on the drama that had already preceded it in the first 4 races.
Previously in the chase.
Blows by Juan Pablo and contact.
What the heck was that all about?
He just turned left. Oh no.
Oh, there's Casey Kane across, and he takes Biffle with him.
You do it. You can beat him 2 laps. Get all you can get. Okay, so just go like hell. Got me go like hell.
Jimmy Johnson wins the Pepsi 500.
Woo! Nice show, guys. Hell yeah. Thinking about a big shiny trophy? No, I haven't thought that far ahead yet.
12 drivers, 10 races, 1 champion. For centuries, man has feared things that go bump in the night. That is not about to change now. Some of the fastest names in the game face a very scary prospect. That of a 3-time defending champion, out in front with time running out. As the chase heads for the home track, expect some high-octane Southern hospitality. So dig in, buckle up, and make your move. Because before you know it, it'll be lights out on your shot at the title.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the post-race edition of NASCAR Now. I'm Mike Massaro alongside Ricky Craven, and the chase has officially reached its halfway point. Ricky, what'd you think of this one?
I think it was another Jimmy Johnson 195-point day.
Yeah, maximum points. That seems to be the motto of the 48 team. And, well, let's see how he got it done. Jimmy Johnson, well, he had been fast in every practice. He was fast enough to win the pole. And, well, maybe one day he'll be like these guys in the Hall of Fame. Let's get at it early on. Problems for Sam Hornish Jr.
Yeah, I thought this might be an indication of what we're going to see most of the night, but it was only Sam Hornish the first couple of times. We're going to see another one here.
Yeah, he had some problems early on a couple of times, and after what we saw in the nationwide race, who could blame you for thinking there'd be a lot of cautions? Fortunately, there weren't a lot of cautions, but certainly enough to talk about. On the restart, Mark Martin on the outside, Jimmy Johnson on the inside, and it looked like these two guys would battle it out.
Yeah, and Jimmy used the inside, which was kind of a contrast to what we'd seen at past races. It worked for him most of the night.
Well, it looked like they'd face another obstacle. You can see the green on that radar. Well, rain was coming down over the Concord, North Carolina area. That would bring out the yellow flag, setting up pit stops. And Joey Logano had some problems early in pit road.
Yeah, and it gets really scary here. As a driver, you don't have enough time to look in your mirror and get in your spot. And real struggle. Yeah, real struggle. And pit strategy early, a couple of guys taking on 2 tires, Matt Kenseth being one of them. We scroll ahead, lap 52, Jimmy Johnson passing Matt Kenseth, who had grabbed the lead via pit strategy with those 2 tires. And, well, Jimmy Johnson blasts on by him, showing his early strength. Lap 71, another guy showing some strength, Mark Martin that being. And, of course, if you take a look at the little box, you can see the 11 car, Denny Hamlin storming to the front. He was pretty good as well. More pit stops here and more problems. Jimmy Johnson, uncharacteristically slow pit stop, 17.1 seconds in the pits. He does roll away, but that was nothing compared to the problems Ryan Newman had, 21.7 seconds. A little problem with lug nuts on the front there. He would try to overcome it, but he did fall to 17th. Meanwhile, Kyle Busch has bigger problems, Ricky. Yeah, Kyle Busch makes a living running on the edge, and at these speeds, he just stepped over a little bit, and that was the result.
And again, that would set up pit stops on pit road. More strategy. A lot of guys taking two tires tonight, Ricky.
Yeah, we anticipated that with our show this morning, Mike, and we saw a lot of that, and it became the theme as the race went along.
And you would be able to gain quite a bit of track position because of that. We go now to a restart here afterwards and take a look at Juan Pablo Montoya, kind of the meat in the sandwich there, and this would have a tremendous impact not only on his race but his chase as well.
Seems like an innocent bump, Mike, but this is an illustration of how a race, or a chase for that matter, could be lost.
Got damage on the front and on the back, and well, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s ridiculous season continues. Transmission problems, and I can't make sense of it, can you?
Reason number 23, Dale Jr. wants to forget about 2009.
Yeah, and it has been a forgettable season. Juan Pablo Montoya needed a caution desperately because he was already a lap down, was in jeopardy of going 2 laps down, spins out here, brings out the caution. It was curious timing. I thought at the moment, maybe, did he bring it out himself?
Well, he's talented. You know, I think you're giving him too much credit. He had his hands full. He said this was gonna happen, not because he wanted it to happen, but because that was the circumstances with how bad the car was driving at that point.
And he's sawing on the wheel. The car did spin. They brought the car down pit road, made the repairs, and tried to get him back out on the racetrack as they did. Just was not Juan Pablo Montoya's day, however.
No, but these guys did their best. You know, they're basically rebuilding the right rear part of the car in 2 or 3 minutes.
And, well, it did not stay intact. The quarter panel blowing off there, and, you know, they just could not get the car back to where it needed to be. Debris on the racetrack, of course, that would bring out the caution one more time and allow some guys to come down and make some repairs. What are they doing here to Mark?
Well, this was also, I think, part of that same incident. Mark Martin obviously had a little bit of damage in the front.
And Denny Hamlin had bigger problems, a valve problem.
This is unbelievable how this thing, nothing can ever stay together.
And for the second straight week, Denny Hamlin's chase chances take a huge hit. Remember what happened in Fontana? Well, he fell behind the wall, ended up finishing 42nd. Effectively out of the chase, I would think. Kasey Kahne emerging as a contender. He has won at Charlotte 3 times since 2006, making a bid for a 4th, passing Matt Kenseth and looking awfully strong. He would eventually open up a pretty sizable advantage as well with the 9 car over Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson lurking back there, 5.9 seconds behind Kasey Kahne. As we look at Kasey Kahne looks strong all day. I thought he had a shot at going back to victory lane.
Yeah, he was super on the high side, Mike. That was his lane choice.
And, of course, the complexion of the race would change again as we neared the checkers, lap 291. This being Max Pappas. Engine problems that would bring the leaders to pit road.
And how valuable is that #1 pit stall?
Yeah, real value. Let's take a look at how close this race was off of pit road. You know, you couldn't tell by the naked eye. I guess that slow motion helped out a little bit. Jimmy Johnson by about, what, an inch?
Yeah, they don't pay points for winning the pole, but they do pay points in this form, you know, getting the first
and
selection.
this is where things get interesting after Carl Edwards' day, which, you know, he really wasn't a factor, but this was just insult to injury. He blew a motor with about 31 laps to go. 22 laps to go. More problems, and Craig Biffle can't catch a break either. He gets collected there, along with David Stremme and Ryan Newman. 10th caution of the race, Biffle ended up finishing 16th. 16 to go, and the battle was on.
Some great racing. It's so hard to run underneath the guy running 165, 70 miles an hour with 850 horsepower under your right foot. Jimmy Johnson does it, makes the pass on the low side. Again, didn't happen a lot tonight.
Jeff Gordon gave him quite a battle for quite a few laps, but once Jimmy Johnson got out front, he was the man. Went back to victory lane, his 6th win at Charlotte, 17th chase win. The man is simply amazing, getting it done, stretching out his championship lead once again. And with the win, Johnson becomes the first to win 3 of the first 5 chase races in a season. Matt Kenseth finished a strong 2nd. It's his best finish since his victory at Fontana way back in February. And rounding out the top 5 were Kasey Kahne, Jeff Gordon, and rookie Joey Logano. Marty Smith caught up with Jimmy in victory lane.
Man, this last few laps, I did everything I could and pinned down on the inside of Gordon. I was just praying I wouldn't get too loose. I knew it was coming. And I got really loose a couple times, and he got back in front of me. And then I made up some ground on the top side, just driving over my head. He knew that was the line to be in. And then I just made some bonds. I moved down to 1 and 2 and barely got by him off the 2.
Without that final pit stop where your guys got you all first, do you win this race?
I don't think so. I think Kasey had this thing in the bag. His car was so fast, especially on the longer run. I was shocked that he didn't come run us down there at the end. So I don't want to take too much away from the adjustments we made on our last pit stop, because that was the best our car had been in the later stages of the race.
You had said recently that you loaned him the keys to your house for a while. How's it feel to have them back?
I'm glad I found the key to the front door. Glad to be back, and what a night with it being Lowe's final night sponsoring this racetrack. Key night in the points. Things are looking good.
Jimmy Johnson back in victory lane for the first time at Lowe's Motor Speedway since 2005.
Thank you, Marty. And I got to believe that Jimmy Johnson has the key to the front door, the back door, the side door, the garage opener. He's got the whole key set to the Lowe's Motor Speedway without question. You know, what stood out for me, Ricky, was that last sequence of restarts, especially the battle with Jeff Gordon. For a while there, it looked like Jeff Gordon had the advantage, but he used up his stuff. How can one guy use up his stuff so quickly and the other guy just be so dominant?
Well,
basically, they're on the same set of tires.
Yeah, the only explanation, Mike, is that the 24 car didn't have the balance that the 48 car had because he wasn't running on all 4 tires or balanced on all 4 tires. He was abusing one end or the other. That's the only explanation because Jeff Gordon's a 4-time champ. You watch Jimmy Johnson now, there's nobody better than Jimmy Johnson in the 48 right now, and he knows when to wait, he knows when to go, and right here, it's time to go.
It's like he punched a button. Dove to the bottom of the racetrack, flashed on by Jeff Gordon, who at that particular point in time looked like he had an awfully strong race car. How demoralizing has it have to be? I mean, for a guy like Jeff Gordon, when you know you've got equal equipment, to get passed by your teammate and then just watch him drive away as you fade back in the field.
You know, I really think that a lot of these teams and drivers have already sort of subscribed to seeing perfection. I mean, we have. You know, I'm fascinated with what Jimmy Johnson has done in the last 3.5 years. The thing that's most remarkable for me is that we've been touting this being the tightest battle ever. This is going to be the year. It's going to get tougher than ever. And guess what? Halfway through, he's starting to drive away. He may be at his very best right now in the midst of a 4th consecutive title. That's what's remarkable to me.
Yeah, now he has a 90-point advantage heading to Martinsville. He's been pretty good there, too. We'll talk about that later in the show. But coming up next, we'll talk about the guys who are trying to track down this 3-time defending champ who right now looks like he's stretching out his advantage. These guys got their work cut out for them.
NASCAR Now, brought to you by Crown Royal Blended Canadian Whiskey. For every king, a crown. Please drink responsibly.
Entering Saturday night's race, the top 6 chase positions were separated by just 121 points. Jimmy Johnson took his first points lead of the season last week with his victory at California. Let's take a look now at how the top 6 fared. On Saturday night, Mark Martin started good on the outside of the front row, but just never could get the car hooked up. Struggled most of the night, finished 17th, but remained 2nd in the standings. Juan Pablo Montoya looking to pull off the upset. It wasn't his night. We mentioned how he got sandwiched there, front end damage, rear end damage. Started the night 18th, finished 35th. Very disappointed with the night.
I mean, it's what it is, and just gotta move on. You know, everybody in this, this Lysol car today was pretty impressive. You know, we had probably one of the fastest cars, and not much we can do. You know, we worked as hard as we could. We did all what we thought was possible, and here we go. You know, today the best we could do was 35th.
You've had a great chase so far. What are your feelings right now?
No, it's okay. You know, it's racing. You know, if you're expecting to have 10 clean races, then you're dreaming. You know, we knew it could happen, and here always the restarts are an issue, and I managed to slow down, and I just got run from behind, and it happens.
Is this worst possible case scenario? Oh, hold on.
Well, I don't. I think worst for you for what? You know, we made the chase up to today. You know, we had 4 top 5s in a row, and we had 1 bucket race. What's bad about it? You know what I mean? I think we're actually surprised. You know, everybody, even including everybody in the team, we're doing such a good job that even today we had we had a faster car than the 48. So. It happens. It's one of those racing things that will happen, and just got to move on.
That 35th was Juan Pablo's worst finish of 2009. Now, Tony Stewart was one of the guys many people considered to be a favorite coming into this race. Started 5th, however, was never really a factor. Finished 13th, and now is 4th in the standings, 155 points behind Johnson. Jeff Gordon challenged for the win, especially late in this race. Started 9th. And, led 3 times for 64 laps, but ultimately ended up 4th. Still knows he needs to get a win to get this championship.
Well, you know, all you really want to do is get maximum points and finish ahead of the guys you're racing in the points. And, you know, other than Jimmy, we're doing that. So, you know, those guys are on an incredible roll. But I'm really excited about the effort that this team has put out these, you know, last 3 weeks especially. But through the whole chase, you know, we just never quit fighting. I want to thank DuPont and, of course, Transformers. That was a lot of fun having Megatron on board.
The bad guy won.
Yeah, well, we were fighting like we were a bad guy, that's for sure. And you know, we put 2 tires on. That's the only thing. That was a great call by Steve. I think Steve called this race perfectly tonight. And you know, we gave it a shot. I mean, I couldn't believe I even got the lead. I got a great restart. Was able to get by Jimmy when he got loose, and we were racing really hard. And you know, I knew it was just a matter of time for my 2 tires to give up, and it did. But we fought hard there with Joey Logano too. That was a lot of fun for 4th.
And Kurt Busch was in the fight as well. Started 15th, made up a little ground, managed to record a top 10 finish at the Lowe's Motor Speedway, and in the end finished 10th, moved from 6th to 5th in points. A relatively satisfying day, but still he has some work to do in the final 5 chase races. Jimmy Johnson made things more comfortable for himself Saturday night at Lowe's Motor Speedway. He tacked on 78 points to his lead over second place Mark Martin. Falling further behind, though, as we heard, Juan Pablo Montoya. He lost 3 positions and is now 137 points back. And Ricky, I would think a very difficult night for a lot of chasers, but the guy who comes immediately to mind is Juan Pablo Montoya. You know, we talked a little bit this morning about his demeanor. It didn't seem to change, which I was kind of surprised by. Obviously a little bit frustrated with his finish, but it didn't make that big a deal out of it.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, Mike. I mean, he has a great attitude, and I like his approach to this. He's come into the sport sort of under the radar, and he's established himself as a championship contender, and he's run every lap as though it were his last. You know, he's just thrown it caution to the wind and gone after this thing, and he's had the talent to back it up, and I think that's what separates him from so many others that want to be in his position. Even if he doesn't win this thing, and it doesn't look like he's going to, he's had a heck of a run here, and he's going to get better from here.
Jeff Gordon, meanwhile, moved up in the standings positions, the rankings. He's ranked 3rd now, but he dropped some points. He came in 105 points back. He's now 135 points back, 5 to go. With what you've seen from him so far, is he competitive enough to beat the 48 team and Jimmy Johnson?
Well, the great thing about Jeff and the 24 team is they appear to be getting better and better and better as the chase is going along. The question is, do they have enough time? And I look at Jeff and even some of these other drivers, and I say, you know, tonight is an example of why the 48 is so darn good. This race had a lot of green flag runs, and if you weren't close, then you didn't get a chance to make those wholesale changes. You heard Alan Gustafson say that to Mark at one point, say, look, we haven't made big changes today. You have to hold on. And, you know, these guys didn't get that opportunity. But with the 48, they were close enough because their practices were outstanding. It comes down to the fundamentals. These guys have to be better in practice, right?
Yep.
I mean, the 48 was good all weekend, and it paid off.
Yeah, they weren't just good all weekend. They won everything there was to win. They were fast in every practice. They won the pole. They won the race. It was a perfect weekend, which is something we can't say about everyone in the chase. When we come back, we'll take a look at some of the drivers who struggled in chase race number 5. Lots of disappointment to go around. Only twice in the previous 5 chases has the eventual champion had to overcome the points leader with 5 races to go. Both times it was the same driver, Jimmy Johnson. In 2006, Johnson overcame 6 drivers with a 146-point deficit to claim his first title. Following year, he had to overtake teammate Jeff Gordon. And, well, Greg Biffle was one of those drivers who wish he could have some of this race back. And there was an incident late in the race where, well, his day went awry. He started 23rd, finished 16th after getting spun out through the infield grass, and now remains 7th in the standings. Meanwhile, Carl Edwards, man, what a disappointing day. Started 28th and just went backwards and ultimately ended up 39th after blowing a motor, his second DNF of 2009. And speaking of DNFs, another one for Denny Hamlin. Second in 2 weeks. Believe it or not, the first time in his career he's had DNFs on consecutive weekends, and the frustration is starting to show.
Yeah, it looked like I dropped the valve or something, but just a tough night for everyone at FedEx. You know, we've just had a rough couple weeks. You know, the driver made a mistake last week and caused us, and then just this week, just parts failure. And it's the best I've ever ran at this racetrack. Had a shot to win it. Felt like, you know, I was being so patient right there behind those guys and not trying to push it and not show everything I had until the very end. But you know, Mike and the guys did a great job providing me a race-winning car. We just didn't have it all put together today, but couldn't be prouder. I mean, we're in contention to win every single one of these races, and just can't get it all together. But once we figure it out, we'll be all right.
As good as you guys have been, how frustrating is it to have the last 2 weeks dash your championship hopes?
Well, that's what sucks about this point system is, you know, you can run your tail off for 24 weeks and it just doesn't matter. You know, you're going to base all your performance off of 10 weeks and one bad week, and especially the way those other guys are performing. You know, you can just step it up in the last 10 like they have done. If you have one bad week, you know, whether because of a driver mistake or a parts failure, you're done. Your season's over with. And, you know, it just, that part of it's frustrating.
And he wasn't the only one frustrated with the evening. Ryan Newman had a good car, was 6th at the beginning of the race, and, well, wasn't able to crack the top 10. Had some problems on pit road, ended the day 11th. However, did move from 10th to 8th in the standings. Casey Kane came in as a favorite. 3 victories at Lowe's Motor Speedway since 2006. Started 3rd, and, well, that's where he would end the day. However, he did lead 2 times for 67 laps. Brian Vickers, quite a quiet chase, was the Cinderella man after a very exciting Richmond in the regular season finale, but hasn't made much noise. Finished 34th on Saturday night. And, you know, what stood out for me, and I'm sure for most of the audience there, Ricky, were the comments that Denny Hamlin made, venting a little bit, if you will, on the point system itself. Just frustration?
Yeah, it's frustration. I don't think, you know, really no basis to it, because if you think about it, Denny Hamlin has done a great job qualifying for the chase in each of his Sprint Cup Series seasons, but he's never won a Sprint Cup Series race. So he can't really speak, you know, there's not a lot of validity to him saying, you know, the system's broken or suggesting the system doesn't work. When the guy that's won the championship the last 3 years and maybe heading for a 4th consecutive title has won over 30% of the playoff races. I mean, I think the system is working, actually.
It is working. I mean, there's no question. It's made it exciting, and it's forcing these teams, like in every other sport, to peak when it's most important.
Right.
How difficult is it to just turn it on and peak when it counts?
I don't know. I worked really hard for 2 wins in my career. I can tell you that, you know, it's very difficult to win these races in spite of what you see from Jimmie Johnson and the 48 team. But, you know, I think at the end of the day, these guys that are battling him for a championship cannot get too caught up in what he's doing. I mean, that's one thing that separates them from the competition, is they focus on what they're doing and try not to be affected by everybody else. And I see a little bit of that frustration coming out in Denny Hamlin, a little bit of that maybe tonight with some other drivers, because the 48 team forces you into mistakes. You know, he had a broken valve spring, Denny Hamlin, but, you know, you don't know what that's a product of. Is that a product of material or part failure, or just running too hard, maybe stretching it out in 3rd gear? Probably not, but my point is that this is the effect of trying to chase somebody that just doesn't beat themselves. You know, these guys, they don't beat themselves.
Got to push, got to continue pushing, and that's what these teams are doing. And, well, nobody's pushing harder than the 48 team. We'll hear more from Jimmie Johnson coming up on the show and hear exactly how much he feels like he's in control of this championship.
Pick any descriptive you like, as long as it's glowingly positive. It fits Jimmie Johnson and his team in the chase for the Sprint Cup 2009. A 3rd win in 5 tries, and having to hold off some pretty tough competition late in Saturday night's race at Charlotte to pick up the W. A couple keys to the race. First of all, Jimmy's team got in the lead on the last pit stop.
Oh, they came down. It was the money stop. They did a great job barely beating a fast Casey Kane off of pit road on the last stop.
Then Jimmy had to hold off Kane on a couple of restarts.
Oh, yeah, Jimmy did a great job. Just coming through this gearbox, just got ahead of his teammate Jeff Gordon and Casey Kane. And when he had that clean air, man, he just checked out.
Final challenge came on a restart. restart with 17 to go. Jeff Gordon actually passed Jimmy for a time, but the driver of that 48 wasn't giving up.
Yeah, Jeff Gordon was really good, but those 2 tires he had just kind of wore down after a while. And Jimmy Johnson, once he got out front, got a little fresh air on that nose, he checked out on them, boys.
So Jimmy Johnson with win number 3 in the chase for the Sprint Cup. You could tear up all the grass you want with a victory celebration. You are entitled with a performance like Johnson had on Saturday night. Alan Bestwick, Rusty Wallace, Brad Daugherty inside our ESPN pit studio. Had some themes we talked about during Saturday night's race about making the right adjustments, not making mistakes, getting the money stop right. Team did all of them.
Well, that's what they did. I mean, they kept up with this racetrack all night long. As the temperatures dropped, it got colder and colder. They did 2-tire stops, 4-tire stops. They did everything they needed to do to maintain being up front. The driver made no mistakes, and he drove the wheels off that race car. We saw him in the latter part of that race get loose. He backed it up, got his composure, and then charged again. And then the last thing is the money stop, which we saw just a second ago. Casey Kane was extremely fast, but they got him on, Jimmy Johnson, and off of pit road ahead of Casey Kane by about that much, and they got him to win.
Rusty, you're watching a performance that could be historic. Yeah. Jimmy Johnson, first guy to win 3 of the first 5 chase races, trying to win a 4th consecutive championship. What do you think about it?
I just kept waiting for Jimmy Johnson to make a mistake tonight. And just like you said, guys, he wouldn't make anything. And the key thing tonight here at Charlotte was keeping up this racetrack. It was our theme going in early. And a lot of guys made mistakes and didn't do that. But Johnson, every stop they adjusted in that car, got it better and better and better. I mean, this team got an A+ all night long in every sense of the word. It was just an amazing domination out of Johnson tonight.
And all of the guys closest to Jimmy in the championship had troubles on Saturday night. So Johnson comes away with a sizable lead, heading to the race in Martinsville on Sunday afternoon next week. The celebration with the Hendrick team, Jimmy Johnson winning at Charlotte.
Thank you, Alan. Let's give a shout out to the top rookie candidate. Joey Logano scored his best Cup finish since his win at New Hampshire in June. Mark Martin, not a rookie, saw his streak of 7 straight top 10s end with his 17th place finish. And for the first time in his Cup career, Denny Hamlin had consecutive DNFs. Time now to head to the media center and hear from the winning team.
Well, we could certainly run a fast lap throughout the weekend. The start of the race went well, and then we kind of just trying to get the balance right, trying to chase the track and get the car where we needed it to be. And some other guys were better. I mean, we were still competitive and ran well. Just got a little too tight as the run would wear on and lose some ground. And Chad and the guys just kept working on things. And that last stop, we had the car where it needed to be. I mean, it was good on the short run, and it held on over the 39 laps. I guess we had those tires on the car. Granted, we had some cautions, but we got it right when it counted. We had a great pit stop at the end. They got us up front, and that was really the deal there. Casey had so much speed in his car those not the last run, but the 2 or 3 before that. We needed clean air to get out in front of him, get going, and it really made the difference.
Chad, you guys had the fastest car in practice. You sat on the pole. You won the race. That had to be a very good weekend in your book.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I've really wanted to do for quite some time. When I started here in 2002, Ken Hauser, director of competition, said that when you have a weekend like this, you should retire because it doesn't get any better. But I don't.
You're not going anywhere, brother. Hate to break it to you.
Well, so much for that. No, but it was a great weekend. It was fantastic. Jimmy did a fantastic job tonight, really breaking down what the car was doing. We were fortunate that the second to last run, the long green flag run, we had gotten the car pretty close at that point. We were a little faster than the 9 car, but shoot, he had a 7-second lead at that point. There's no way we were going to overcome that and be able to catch him in this last 50 laps. But when the caution came out, we were real optimistic. If we had a decent pit stop, we'd have something for him because our car was really good on the short run, and panned out.
Questions for either Jimmy or Chad? Raise your hands and we'll get to you. Let's start right over here, and then we'll move down the road.
Brian Keith, frontstretch.com. Jimmy, obviously you owe a lot of the success in your career to Jeff Gordon, and here tonight he's given you absolutely everything he's got, trying to stay in front, and you basically took him to the cleaners to win the race. What's going through your head when you make a move like that?
To me, none of that stuff's gone through my head, to be honest with you. I knew that they were fast on 2 tires, and when he had clean air, he was real quick. But when he was mired in traffic, he didn't have the speed that he needed. So in my opinion, I needed to suck it up and get all that I could those first 2 or 3 laps to get out in front of him. And once I did that, he didn't have the benefit of clean air, and it really hurt his car, and he started slipping back. But That last restart, man, I had my hands full. I was loose on the inside of him, had a couple moments, had to fall in behind him, collect my thoughts, and try to find another way by him. And once I cleared him, I knew we'd be in good shape. But if he could have held on 3 or 4 more laps, in front of me, I could have then got too tight and not been able to get by. So, not that I was desperate to get by him, but I was doing all that I could.
Next question, right down the row there. Go ahead.
Mike Neff, Athlon Sports, frontstretch.com. One for each of you. Jimmy, you're 4 wins away from 50, which has always been a magical number in this deal. That'll get you up to tie for 10th for all time. Just speak a little bit to what that'll mean, and can you actually get it done this year? And for Chad, Jimmy mentioned in Victory Lane that this was a perfect weekend because you won all 3 practices in qualifying and the race. Somebody mentioned it to Matt Kenseth before when he was in here, and he said, actually, to be a perfect weekend, you'd have to lead every lap in a race, too. Do you guys think you can go to Martinsville next weekend and pull that off?
Guess we got more work to do.
Jeez. That's why you retire.
Yeah, I guess so. Hell, I've got a short memory. What'd you ask me again? Oh. As the last year or two have gone by, I've paid a lot more attention to where I am in the sport and the win total and things like that. And just to hear today that we're tied with Buck Baker in 13th, I mean, that is really, really neat. We'll see what we can do. We have some good tracks ahead for us. I hope that we can keep winning races. You never know what's going to happen in the sport, but I hope to get to 50. That'd be awesome.
Man, we're just going to go and try to do the best we can. I'll be honest.
Okay, we'll take 2 more downstairs and then go upstairs. Go ahead.
Jimmy, David Caravella, NASCAR.com. I think a 90-point lead now with your best track coming up. I mean, how much of this basically comes down to you getting through Talladega unscathed at this point?
I mean, sure, that's, the track that you don't have any control at. But at the same time, I mean, we're only halfway through this thing, and so much can happen. Somebody at Martinsville can lose their brakes and clean you out. With a double file restart, there's going to be a lot of bumping and banging. Somebody can get into you, knock a valve stem out, or cut a tire. So, I mean, it's a nice points lead, but there's no need for anybody to get too excited yet. We've got good tracks ahead for us, so from a team standpoint, we're excited and optimistic. But at the same time, there's a lot of danger out there, and we just got to be smart.
Go over here to Bruce, then we'll go upstairs. Go ahead, Bruce.
Bruce Martin with SI.com. Kind of a follow-up on that. Only reason I'm following up is because he asked it ahead of me, but I mean, 90 points is a pretty healthy cushion at the halfway point of the chase. So you still have to feel like, as long as you set the agenda for the last 5 races of this thing.
If it keeps going like it has, again, 1 flat tire, 1 mechanical. Talladega, we all seem to know the risks at Talladega. That's gone. That just disappears. 90 points is gone. So, but I'm not trying to downplay where we're at. I'm very, very happy where we're at. But there's 5 races. There's a lot of racing left.
Upstairs in the press box, go ahead.
Nate Ryan, USA Today, for both Jimmy and Chad. Going back to the concept of the perfect weekend. One, this is the 9th time you guys have won from the pole. So I guess how many other times, in those past 8 instances, were you guys close to getting this? And, why did it happen this time? And I guess also, when did that first become a goal for this team to get that perfect weekend?
We've been close twice. We've been to the.
I wasn't aware of this goal until today. Yeah. So we won the race. So this is a Chad goal.
This is a personal goal of mine. We were close twice. We'd missed it in a race practice one time. We'd missed it in qualifying practice another time. So odd that I've been keeping tally on that, but it's true. So we've been close, but haven't quite made it ever. So it's kind of cool.
Coming up, we'll hear from the guys who chased Jimmy to the checkers. Matt Kenseth and Casey Kane, both of them had runs to be proud of. It's been quite the head coaching debut for Josh McDaniels. He leads the undefeated Denver Broncos into San Diego to take on the Chargers on Monday Night Football. It all starts at 7 p.m. Brought to you by Applebee's. Time now to head to the Media Center and hear from Matt Kenseth, who celebrates his best finish since February, which was his win in California.
ahead.
For us, our run was really good. All our guys did a good job on pit road. That was the fastest car we've had in a long time. We qualified exceptionally well for us. We were able to keep our track position all night, and we were just able to make real little adjustments. But I was really happy with my car all night. I mean, I wasn't fast enough to beat the 48, and Casey on the long run was a good bit better than us at times. But we had a really good car, and we got the best we could out of it. It feels good for us to run up front. It's a good confidence booster for myself and for the team.
Casey, certainly you were running up front for most of the evening. Had some tire issues there, I guess, there at the end. But solid third-place finish moves you up 2 spots from 11th to 9th in the point standings.
Yeah, we had a really good Budweiser Dodge. We were up there. Matt was up there. You know, there are a couple other guys that seemed to be there all night. Jimmy was one of them. And we weren't good enough that final run. We were one of the best car, or the best car at times throughout the night, but the final run when it counted, we weren't. And Jimmy showed up and beat us all.
Questions now for either Casey or Matt Kenseth. If you have one, we've got 2 mic holders on opposite sides of the room. We'll start right here. Go ahead.
Mike Neff, Athlon Sports, FrontStretch.com. Casey, it seemed like the restarts were really difficult for you. I don't know if it's a gearing issue or if it's just a matter of being on the colder tires and your tires were warmer. I guess, can you clarify what you think it is that caused you to kind of slip back on those restarts and take a while to get going again?
Yeah, I mean, I always have a problem when I start off the front row this whole year. With restarts, and I just spin my tires, and I try not to give it throttle and don't spin my tires, and I get pushed from behind. So I have a problem with it. The only time I can actually, that's all I got on that because that's all I got.
Next question. I think we have some upstairs. Questions upstairs in the press box. Go ahead.
Jeff Gluck from NASCAR Scene. Obviously, there's probably a lot of fans that watch tonight and are probably feeling kind of depressed that if they don't like Jimmy, they're going to see him win a championship again. Can either of you offer any hope to the fans out there that maybe this thing's not over yet?
Well, I don't think either of us can stop him at this point as far as points go. So it's definitely not over. I mean, anything can happen the rest of the year. But, you know, if it doesn't, I think Jimmy's the guy to beat.
We've got more on Casey Kane. Hear why everything was going so well until that final pit stop. Be sure to tune in Monday night for the Roundtable edition of NASCAR Now. That's at 6 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. As the panel of experts will be led by Alan Bestwick, breaking down all the major stories and issues coming out of Charlotte. Time now to check in with the pit reporters, starting with Dave Burns.
Well, the chase goes to Talladega in 2 weeks. This weekend, Jimmy Johnson was asked if he thought he might build up a bit of a lead before getting there because that race can be such a wild card. He's run very well at Charlotte, very well at Martinsville. His response was, well, I don't want to get too emotionally attached to different things that happen at different races. And what he meant by that was, if I don't happen to run well at Charlotte or I don't happen to run well at Martinsville, that's no big deal to me, and I don't want that to get into my head. Well, guess what? Top of the board tonight, once again, Jimmy Johnson. He's run well here. I think he might run well at Martinsville, and it may not matter as they head to Talladega in 2 weeks.
I'm Vince Welch, and in covering the 5 team of Mark Martin and company tonight, one thing stands out. This team did not have its best performance, but it kept digging to the very end. After the checkered flag flew, Mark Martin came on the radio and said to his crew chief, Alan Gustafson, and the rest of the gang, we kept digging tonight. You can't have good days every day. Martin admitted he wasn't his best this evening. The team finishes 17th and is now 90 points behind Jimmy Johnson in the chase. But don't count out Mark Martin in this group. They'll be back.
I'm Jamie Little, and tonight I was covering Carl Edwards. A bad night just got worse. The car started off so extremely loose, they had to make twice as many pit stops as anybody else. They finally got it tightened up. Then he had a loose wheel. That's when he said, guys, on the radio, he said, I know we're all mad. Let's stick together. We are a team. Not soon after, he blew a motor, ended up coming back here, finished the day in 39th, and he slips back to 10th.
I'm Shannon Spake in Charlotte. Following a frustrating Fontana weekend, Casey Kane battled back with a 3rd place finish in Charlotte. After having ignition box problems on pit road, the team went on to lead 67 laps and move from 11th to 9th in the points.
Thank you, guys. Great work tonight. And Casey Kane overcame those ignition box problems, that's for sure. Awfully strong throughout the course of the evening. And for more on Kane, we go out to the racetrack and bring in our lead reporter, Marty Smith. And Marty, it seemed like this team was in contention for the win until that final pit stop. How much of an impact did that final stop have on their chances of winning?
It essentially ruined their chance of winning, Mike. I spoke with Kane in depth about his evening after the race, and he told me that on that final pit stop, which he came in with an 8-second lead when that caution flew, and they did leave lug nuts loose on the right front wheel on that last pit stop. So essentially he drove the final run of the race with his teeth chattering out of his head. Now, he was extremely deflated after the race. He wanted so bad to beat Jimmy Johnson at this racetrack in a car that he told me was among the best he's ever had here. And of course, he's a 3-time winner.
You know what I love about you, Marty? You're so descriptive. His teeth chattering out of his head.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, well, I do appreciate it, and our audience does too. Hey, how about Carl Edwards? A very disappointing evening for him. When his engine blew, he described it as a mercy killing. I know you spoke with him. What else did he have to say?
Indeed, that's exactly what he said. It was a mercy killing, but he also told me it was one of the most frustrating evenings he's ever had in the Cup Series. He said anything that could go wrong did go wrong, and it wasn't just the pit crew, it wasn't just the crew chief, it wasn't just him, definitely a collective effort. But the one thing that really stood out to me about what Carl said was the crew chief, Bob Osborne, was really beating himself up after this race about how that car ran, and Carl actually had to go build him up emotionally for it.
All right, another one of the guys who came away with a disappointing finish, Juan Pablo Montoya, and it seemed like the critical moment for him was on a restart where he got sandwiched and got beat up, front end damage, rear end damage. What was he saying about the restarts tonight?
He was pretty critical of Jeff Gordon, actually, Mike. He said that on most restarts, Gordon's kind of inability to get going stacked up the field behind him, and that it just created so many problems for everybody else. He was Montoya was quite outspoken about it and said that that did play into his tough evening this evening.
All right, Marty, appreciate your time. I know it's been a long day out there at the racetrack. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, bud.
Coming up, we'll get you ready for Chase race number 6 as the series heads to the smallest track on the schedule, Martinsville.
You got to do everything right when you come to Martinsville. There's not much question about that. Everybody tightening the seat belts. Fans are standing on their feet, want to see this finish here at Martinsville. Look out, here goes Denny Hamlin immediately diving under Jimmy Johnson.
What a move by Denny Hamlin, and it's going to give Denny Hamlin the lead out of turn 4. It's Hamlin and Johnson, 1 and 2. Oh, the leaders tangle. Johnson to the inside of Hamlin. He bangs him. They both save it, and Jimmy Johnson takes the lead with the bump and run in turn 3.
The Hendrick domination continues at Martinsville Speedway as Jimmy Johnson wins for the 6th time here at Martinsville.
Yes, we're off to Martinsville, and to no one's surprise, the driver with the best performance record at this half-mile track is Jimmy Johnson. In 15 starts, Johnson has 6 wins and 14 top 10 finishes. Jeff Gordon leads all drivers with 7 victories, all active drivers, I should say. And Hendrick Motorsports has been pretty good, and well, you were pretty good there too, Ricky Craven. This is you in 2001. Remember this?
Everybody's got their favorites, Mike. Martinsville was mine.
And not a bad performance. 2001, Ricky Craven, your winner, edging out Dale Jarrett. And this is Ricky Craven now in 2009 live. You know, it's interesting. We were in that montage. You heard Barney Hall say you have to do everything right at Martinsville. What does that mean exactly? What do you need to do to get to victory lane at that place?
Well, it's a physical race and a lot of energy. You're going to use a really tall rear gear. You're going to use every bit of that horsepower. You have to manage the gas pedal, but you also have to manage the brake. The brakes typically aren't a big element in Sprint Cup Series racing, but you can flat wear them out at Martinsville. So that's one of those things that you have to control. And then, of course, body damage. You know, you see Matt Kenseth spinning here. This is going to be a contact sport. The safest place, of course, is out front, and a place Jimmy Johnson is familiar with.
Now, managing the brakes. I mean, easier said than done. I mean, you're flying down that straightaway into the corner. You're on the brakes every lap several times. I mean, how do you manage it? What can you do differently?
Well, the simplest thing you can do is have a great handling car, because a great handling car rolls into the corner and it secures the bottom of the racetrack. If you don't have a great handling car, you're going to have to slow it down, and you'll have to slow it down more as the tires wear, and that's where the problem comes in. So the drivers will just have to roll out a little sooner as the tires wear, and again, preserve some for the end. And you can tell by the pedal how much of the pedal you use based on where it starts at the beginning of the race, where you're at in the middle of the race, and you can't win without brakes at the end.
All right, so right now, and actually if you look at the history of Martinsville Speedway, no team has been better than Hendrick Motorsports. Yeah. Why are they so good there?
Well, a lot of it, I think, has to do with attitude, and Jimmy Johnson loves racing there. And, you know, before Jimmy Johnson, it was Jeff Gordon, and maybe something that Jeff Gordon did translated back to Hendrick Motorsports, and they applied it to the 48 car. You know, horsepower makes a difference, and they have no shortage of that, but I think it's more than anything, it's a driver preference, because you have to mix it up. You have to know when to and when not to, and this, you know, takes some risk, like most races. But it's a certain discipline of racing that they only do a few times a year, Mike, and drivers either like it or they don't, and I think liking it helps. All right, so quickly, only have a few more seconds here. Why is Jimmy Johnson so good at that place? Well, why is he so good everywhere, really? I mean, you know, I do think that this team gets into a position where trends are established, and you know, I think winning in the past helps. They expect to run well there, and that leads into a good, strong practice, a good, strong qualifying run. And then in the race, I almost think that everybody's affected by that. You know, the competition's affected by how well he runs in practice and qualifying. Well, they've run exceptionally well in practice and qualifying. They were the best in each practice in Charlotte. They won qualifying, and they won the race. No reason why they can't do it again in Martinsville. Race 6 coming up.